Welcome back to the Revealed Report. Well, we can see that the left is promising that there's going to be a bombshell. I mean, this sounds very familiar. Anybody remember the Russian collusion hoax time frame when every single week we were hearing there's more information coming. There's more information. A new bombshell is coming. And week after week, we found out it was nothing more than a smoking gun and nothing resulted at the end. So it's hard for me to believe that they really have dirt on Trump with the Epstein files. Now, look, here on the Revealed Report, if we're ever wrong, we will confess to you that we're wrong. We'll tell you that we're wrong. We have no problem being humble about it and saying, hey, we got it wrong. However, it's hard for me to believe that the left actually has any dirt on Trump, because they've had these files all the way back to what, like 2014, 2015 or whatever. We went all through the Biden administration. Nothing ever was said about Trump on these Epstein files. Nothing was ever brought out from the radical left. As a matter of fact, if they had that, then why would they have been talking about the Russian collusion hoax, trying to take Trump down with the Russian collusion hoax if they had all this dirt on Trump? Doesn't that seem like a bigger story than the Russian collusion hoax itself? But week after week, we were told that bombshell new information's coming out that's going to take Trump down, and it never worked. So to me, it just seems like the radical left trying again to take down Trump in every which way they can. And if they don't get to take him down, then what they're trying to do is divide the base. And that's really what we're seeing right now. We've seen this under the first Trump administration. We're seeing this now under the second Trump administration. We see Marjorie Taylor Greene turning her back pretty much on Donald Trump, which I find kind of incredible, because here she was like going out and blasting Trump for like over a month on end. And then finally, when Trump actually says something back, then she's going to cry out and be offended by it and saying, oh, he's causing my life to be threatened because he called her Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is nothing new in politics. I mean, that's just part of the fun sport of it. We begin to have little puns and jabs along the way. Everybody's doing that to one another. They do it to Trump. Trump does it to others. Everybody does it. We do it on air. It's just fun pun. That's not really an escalating matter. But yet she wants to be able to bash Trump for over a month, talk about him, go on The View, go on CNN, really take the Liz Cheney route. And by the time Trump actually says something back, then she's going to say, he's causing my life to be in danger because he called me Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so really what it is, she wants to be able to say whatever she wants on The View, CNN, to whoever, and she doesn't want Trump to say anything back to her. Because what is happening is there is an infiltration taking place on the MAGA conservative right side of the aisle. There are some of us that are grassroots Republican conservatives. We are America first, but we are not America isolationists. We are not America only. We are not anti-Semitic, as we're seeing rise up not only on the left, but also on the right. With that being said, we find that there are some that's trying to infiltrate the MAGA movement, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the Steve Bannons and the Tucker Carlson type of ones that are trying to really avert us away from what Trump has always been. Trump has always been America first, but not America only, not American isolationism. And so everything the radical left has been trying to do is either to take Trump down or divide the base. And now you find that there are some that are being divided from the Trump administration and Trump leadership. It's hard for me to believe that they actually have dirt on him. As a matter of fact, there's a theory out that Trump might have been a part of the original whistleblower. This is just a theory. I'm not saying that I totally believe this. I'm just giving you the plausibilities here. And so let me give you a little bit of research we were able to dig up. We know that Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago in the early 2000s. Multiple reports, including from court documents and sworn statements, indicate Epstein was banned from Mar-a-Lago. The reason given: inappropriate behavior toward a staff member or young girl. This ban occurred long before Epstein's 2006 arrest. Also, in addition, Trump cooperated fully with prosecutors in 2009 to 2010, which is really the heart of the theory. The Palm Beach prosecutors and attorneys representing Epstein's victims have said Trump was the only high-profile individual who voluntarily came forward. He provided useful, actionable information. He never requested immunity, privilege, or special protection. His cooperation helped victims in civil litigation. The most circulated quote is from Bradley Edwards, attorney for Epstein's victims. The only person who picked up the phone and offered to help was Donald Trump. The statement is sworn testimony. The theory Trump was the unknown whistleblower who tipped off prosecutors is speculation, but it's built off some documented cooperation. The theory suggests Palm Beach detectives were going stonewalled by elite networks. Someone within the inside knowledge provided information that helped them build the initial case. Because Trump gave early voluntary assistance, some believe he was the anonymous tipster. There is no documentation providing this, but Trump's cooperation is confirmed. Epstein was banned from Trump properties. Trump was socially distanced from Epstein before others. And this creates the framework of the theory. Now, this was going on, and Clinton was seen quite a bit with Epstein, and yet we don't hear anything about that. We're just hearing about Trump. You can see that this just seems to be another collusion hoax. Now it's the Epstein kind of hoax. I'm not saying that there wasn't foul play with Epstein and things going on. And I have some plausible theories. But the problem is in America, what we're finding is our justice system is being turned inside out. It used to be innocent till proven guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. Now you're guilty and you have to prove yourself innocent. And that's the problem I have. We now would rather buy into all types of conspiracies and condemn people to be guilty, and then they have to prove themselves innocent. That was never to be the justice system of the United States of America. You are innocent until proven guilty. That's how it's supposed to be. And so I can't put guilt on somebody without having enough evidence. And really, there's not even enough evidence for me to build a case. Yes, do I think that that they fumbled it? The Trump administration fumbled it by saying they were going to give full transparency and not providing that full transparency? Absolutely. However, I have a theory for why I think there's not being full transparency. And I do think the radical left did trip Trump up a little bit. I do believe they kind of outplayed Trump. And it's not the first time. It just doesn't happen very often. You've heard me say that I believe that the radical left outplayed Trump during the COVID-19 timeframe when they gave him the 15 days to slow the spread and shut down the economy. And I believe they helped with the playbook that really caused a lot of problems, and it helped bring wokeism and all of that. So I believe that was a time that Trump was a little bit outplayed. I think he was outplayed on this one as well. And I'll give you that theory here momentarily. However, it's hard for me to believe that the radical left has dirt and they're just now starting to leak information. Well, if they had it under the previous administration, they could have used any of that dirt to take Trump down. No doubt they would have done it. They were using everything else. Why not that? So I don't think we're ever going to fully know the full story, at least not in my lifetime. I mean, we've been through this with JFK, MLK, and all types of different things. And I think part of the reason of that is we're going back 2014, 2015, whatever, and even before that. And what you find is that if there was original cover up, it's going to be very, very difficult to figure out all the truth to that. If a lot of that information was purged and burned, we've seen this with so many other cases. And this was before Trump was ever the president of the United States. And so I don't know if we're ever going to get the facts on it. I wish we could. Even if there is the transparency of being given what there is right now, I'm not even so sure that that's going to tell the full story. So I believe they would not be leaking information and anonymously, like the big dog that didn't bark, which some believe that meant he was the whistleblower. And so there's no solidifying evidence with that. That's just an email with no solidifying evidence. You can build a case however you want with that. That's one of the criticisms I have with Candy Owens right now, is because she'll just take a sentence and it doesn't matter any of the context and just build a whole theory out of it and a whole conspiracy and begin to condemn people when there's no solid evidence to prove them guilty beyond any shadow of a doubt. And so I can't come on air and do that. Now, if Trump's wrong, we'll say he's wrong, but we got to have solidifying evidence for that. It's hard for me to believe it's there because they've been trying to do this ever since he came down that escalator in 2016. And so I don't think they would just be anonymously leaking this information. As a matter of fact, the email about the big dog not barking yet was actually not even, there was a little bit of scrubbing from the first time. That was not the first time that was released. But if you go back, they changed some of the language in there as well, or some of it was snipped out to make it sound even worse. And so all the ladies that talked about Trump, none of them has come out and talked evil against him. And his own children admire him. I don't think that if he was that nasty of a man, he could have the admiration of his family like that. And I think there would have been more women that would have been coming out and trying to accuse him. So I don't see where they have dirt. I don't think this is going to bring Trump down. I think what it is, and this is what I want to get into, and I think this is part of the reason why Trump is, he kind of changed. It was first full transparency and kind of changed on that. Is I believe that President Trump had full intention to be fully transparent and release all of it. However, the radical left was in charge before he came into the presidency. I mean, they had it in their control for those 4 years or more. They had it under their control before he came in. And even before he came in with his first administration, they had the power and authority over that. So obviously, I mean, they could cook that. They could do whatever they want. They could do all types of scandalous things behind his back. They had the ability to do it. They were the ones in charge. They were the administration there. And so I think there was shenanigans being played with that. I believe the radical left was probably like, "Oh yeah, Trump, you're going to be fully transparent on day one. Yeah, the Epstein files are coming out on day one." So we don't know what kind of shenanigans were being played. So I think that when he came into office, he probably began to realize that this was going to be, and is going to probably be this is going to be an endless, eternal distraction. The radical left are just going to take every little piece they can. If it's an email, if it's a letter, if it was some type of visit from Epstein down to Mar-a-Lago before he was banned, any of that, then they're going to build whole cases around those little incidents, and they won't have any solid evidence, nothing solidifying, but they're going to push it as if he's guilty, just like they did with the Russian collusion hoax, just like they did with everything else. And I think that Trump knows that that's going to distract the American people from all that he is doing. And constantly he's going to be back in that stupid kangaroo court while we're not looking at all the things he's doing, like trying to win the AI race, trying to make rare earth mineral deals, trying to break the back of China dependency, pull those Asian countries away from the China dependency, nailing that down for the future of America. And now we even see that the tariffs actually are working at bringing inflation down, which all the experts said it would not. I did a whole episode on, you can go back and find it. I was one of the earliest ones to be calling it out and went out there on the limb and gave the episode how I believe that tariffs can save America. Economically speaking, we know Jesus is the only savior, but economically speaking, I said that tariffs can save America. I was one of the first ones to call it, even when I had conservative and liberal friends saying, "Oh no, it's going to spike inflation and that." And I said, you don't understand history then. Alexander Hamilton wrote his whole federal budget practically on tariffs. William McKinley wrote them right into the White House. Abraham Lincoln used them to help rebuild the economy after the Civil War. He's not the first one. And if tariffs are so bad, like Trump said, then why is everybody else doing it? And we're not. And so I supported the tariffs from the very outset. Now, I was right. It did not hurt the inflation. However, what I did not foresee, which was even more genius by Trump, is that he was using it to bring these countries to the negotiation table. So that way he can begin to make deals for rare earth minerals. And that way he can try to win the AI race and break the back of China dependency, which is absolutely intelligent. And as you can see, Trump has no problem backing off some of the tariffs. He sets a high bar, he negotiates it down. It's the art of the deal. He does it very well. And I think Trump knows that the Epstein conspiracy or whatever, and I don't think that's really conspiracy. I think Epstein is guilty of some really perverse action. Now, whether he was a Mossad agent and all of that, we can build all these theories, but we don't have enough solid evidence, even though Tucker Carlson actually thinks he does, but he never really delivers all the receipts to prove any of that. Or Jihadi Candy Owens likes to, but doesn't really prove anything, just throws a bunch of things against the wall, pins it all together, and creates some conspiracy as if it's actual fact that wouldn't hold up in litigation. It wouldn't hold up in a courtroom because it's not proving guilt beyond a shadow of doubt, because that's the American court system, justice system. But we forget about that in our current media age, where we can make everybody guilty by just one sentence taken out of context. And so I believe that Trump realizes that he's calling for it to be released, but I think he realizes once it's released, even though the radical left's not going to have enough solidifying evidence, I don't believe. And like I said, if we're wrong, we'll confess that. But I don't think they're going to find any solidifying evidence. I think they're just going to use every little piece of information they can for all of those years, all of those documents, and they're just going to endlessly, have teams just eternally until they die going through it, trying to pick out whatever they can. And that's all you're going to hear on CNN. That's all you're going to hear on MSNBC. That's all you're going to hear on ABC is 24/7 how Trump liked 14-year-old girls or whatever. I think that's all you're going to find. And I think he knows it's going to be an endless kangaroo court. And so I think that's where the hesitancy was. And who knows what was being played behind the back there. And, you know, if Jeffrey Epstein was really like the James Bond villain that was that tied into everything, that controlling, then what makes us think that we're ever going to get the actual information? So I'm okay with the releasing of the files, but I do believe the backlash of that's going to be is we're going to hear about this like the Russian collusion hoax, and I don't think there's going to be anything to take Trump down. Now, if I'm wrong, hey, we'll come on air and we'll say we got it wrong, and if he's guilty of anything, hey, we're not following people as if they're God. We'll call that out, but I just don't see it. And so if I was a betting man, which I'm not, but if I was, I would make my bet that there's not going to be anything that takes them down. There's just going to be endless amount of just reruns again, all over again. It's like going back in 2016, 2017, 2018, all over again. Russian hoax, Russian hoax, Russian hoax. He colluded with Russia. That's all we're going to get out of that. I don't see anything else coming out of that. And so I do think that Trump was outplayed, though. I will give the radical left credit on that. I mean, they are more devious than we are on the conservative side of the aisle. But I think their tactic is working. I think they're using this to divide the base. They're trying to divide MAGA, which doesn't seem super hard, really, because there are some on the MAGA movement. Now, I'll tell you what happened was, at one time, we all had a common enemy. It was the radical left. During the COVID-19 timeframe, we had one common enemy. It was the radical left. It was kind of like back after 9/11 when we knew we had to fight off terrorism. We put down our differences. Republicans and Democrats came together for one united effort. We got to stop terrorism in the world. And I think the same thing is happening right now, because during the COVID-19 timeframe, through those 4 years, everything the radical left was doing, then we had a common enemy to fight against that. We didn't want drag queens in our children's school. My kids weren't going to a public school, but I still cared because I care about kids in public school. They were being trans. They were being told all types of sexual deviant ideas, and that we've seen ESG scoring on the rise, the crushing of middle-class businesses, the shuttering of the doors of the churches. We all had a common enemy. Now that we defeated the common enemy, and now the conservatives are in power, now we're seeing who was truly a part of the real MAGA movement and who is the counterfeit MAGA movement, who is America first and who is American isolationism, who is actually believes that, you know, we should have a friend in Israel, and who is actually anti-Semitic, not just an overusage of the word, but truly anti-Semitic, because I do believe we are living in a dangerous time. You realize that in Germany in 1938, or even before that, I believe that before Adolf Hitler really started crushing the Jews and the churches and that, you see that the Christian churches, seeing the handwriting on the wall and seeing the danger and all of that, they began 90% or 80 or 90% of the churches began to rid all the Jewish nature out of the church. That meant they even, you know, ripped out the Old Testament of the Bible and everything, because it was written by Jews. And I mean, even much of the New Testament was written by Jews. And as a matter of fact, inside the churches, they started replacing the picture of Jesus. And some of the churches were putting a picture of Adolf Hitler right on the altars, because the Germans hated the Jews so much that they were forcing the Christians to even denounce the Jews. And I think the same spirit is rising today. It's more subtle. It's more intellectual. It's more crafty in its messaging. But I think the same spirit is on the rise today, where Jewish kids they got to be fearful to go to their school. If you're in New York City and you're a Jew, I mean, you would have to watch your back probably walking down the street right now. And everything that's Jewish is being demonized as if it has a plague all over again. And you can't go out there and use that rhetoric over and over again and it not begin to make people look at those people different and begin to isolate them. That's exactly what was happening in Germany. And it began to even be pressed down to the churches began to rid themselves from anything Jewish, to the point they had to get rid of the picture of Jesus because he was a Jew, and they put Adolf Hitler there. I believe we're seeing similar type of spirit here today. And so we know there was already a divide in the MAGA movement, but we didn't really see it because we all had a common enemy. Now that we defeated the common enemy, now there's the infighting. That's not really unusual. That's not your normal. That's not something to panic about. That happens all the time. When you finally defeated your common enemy, now you have your differences. As a matter of fact, in World War II, we had some strange allies, which I'll talk about a little bit because there was a dumb comment from Tucker Carlson actually on that. And I used to respect him deeply. And I really would probably love the guy anyways, but I just don't like some of the things he's saying right now. I think it's a rebranding of postmodernism to try to make everybody question everything, to deconstruct things, and to really tear up the true MAGA movement. And so in World War II, though, we began to, Churchill and FDR, America and Great Britain, we began to really ally with Joseph Stalin to take down fascism, to take down Hitler, to take down the Nazis. And then after we took down fascism, then you find that America and the Soviet Union began to turn on each other because we weren't really friends with the Soviet Union. We just had a common enemy, and it looked like Hitler had the ability to take over Europe at the time, and it was a great danger. So the hard decision was made that we allied with somebody who wasn't really our ally, so we can take down. It's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and use them to help take down Nazism, and then we finally took down communism. And so I think it worked out wonderful. Now, I don't like where our countries have gone to now today, but it worked out wonderful at the time. Of course, nothing's ever perfect as we want it. We live looking back at the men and looking at the decisions, but we often forget about the fog of war. So we made a strange ally partner, but really we weren't on the same side. And after we destroyed the enemy, then you can see that Stalin and FDR, they weren't on the same page. America and the Soviet Union wasn't on the same page. And I believe that's what we're seeing right now in the MAGA movement. I know everybody's panicking. Oh, no, man, there's a divide in the MAGA movement. This is nothing near normal. We defeated the common enemy. Now there's a divide within the movement. That happens all the time. I don't think it's anything to frantic or panic about. We just get through it. We fight it out. We win. That's what we do. We just fight it out and win. So I don't think we have to chew off our fingernails, bury our head in the sand like the proverbial ostrich. Mayday, Mayday, SOS, save our ship. The ship's going down. The MAGA's going down. The conservative movement's going down. Oh, no, this is going to bring down Trump. This is normal. There's nothing near normal about this. We'll get through it. It all works out. We'll have to fight for the midterms, and then we got 2028. We'll do some damage, of course. Yeah, it does some damage, but it's not normal for that to take place. Now, what is happening, though, is the Jeffrey Epstein aspect of that. The radical left is trying to use that to greatly divide the base even more. That's the tactic. It's really, the radical left don't really care about all that. They cared about that, they would have released it a long time ago. That's not what it's about. They're strategically doing it right now so they can play on the already division of the conservative side of the aisle to further that divide. That's why we see Marjorie Taylor Greene, or in the words of Donald Trump, Marjorie Trader Green, that's now coming out against Trump, been bashing him for over a month. And now when he begins to say something back, she's going to cry about it. But she's taken the Liz Cheney route. I think I said Lindsey Graham earlier. If I did, I meant Liz Cheney. Sorry. But she's taking the Liz Cheney route. And so that's the sad thing. Marjorie Trader Green was saying that she's America first. And now she's on The View and on CNN. I think that's enough for you. We've seen how this goes. Liz Cheney goes on there. What was the senator that wanted to be a part of the January 6th committee? Anyways, they go out there and they try to make friends with the left mainstream media as if they're going to be friends. They hated Marjorie Trader Green. They hated her. The only reason they're accepting her on is because they're just unified in their hatred towards Donald Trump. And now you have you have Marjorie Trader Green coming out and now apologizing for our rhetoric and how I'm so sorry for the things that I said because of the tension being so high. And after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I need to come on here and I need to apologize to the mainstream media, which is number one thing you don't do when you're on the conservative side of the aisle is go out and apologize to the mainstream media, because you're being used as a pawn. Look, I will apologize when I am wrong to the person I hurt. I'm not going to allow people to use it as a weapon against me, or a weapon against the things, the more bigger principles that I'm standing for. So she goes out there and she's wanting to apologize for all of that. And you can go back to my episodes where I said that the problem is they're radicalizing them on the left, and then after the left begins to enact and engage in violence, then they want to try to silence all of us and want to try to make us stop saying the things we're saying. And it's only a tactic to silence us on the conservative side of the aisle. So MTG is now going out there and siding with the radical leftist mainstream media to go after the MAGA movement, the true MAGA movement, and to further that divide. This is the same thing we have seen with many milquetoast Republicans. Now, we never thought she would probably become a milquetoast Republican, but I will be honest with you, even though I wasn't an enemy or an opponent or against Marjorie Taylor Greene, at the same time, I'll be honest with you, I was never a big fan of her, and I never really fully trusted her. I thought there was something always a little off with her. Now, she did good. So I wasn't, you're not against this, you're for us. So I wasn't going to try to bash her or try to say anything ill against her. But to be honest with you, I've never really been on the boat with her anyways, because I always thought there was something slightly off. And so I didn't ever have full trust and confidence in her. And now, as she goes out on View, if you go out on the View and you're trying to side with Whoopi Goldberg and them, that's enough for me. You don't even have to tell me what you believe in. If you're willing to go out there and try to apologize for your rhetoric and I need to tamper it down, and you're trying to, speak against the one that helped you get elected, then that's enough. That's all I need to know. You're just taking the Liz Cheney route and the milquetoast Republicans that came before you. So I don't think this is worth panicking over. I think time is going to play out. I think everything's going to be all right. I think that the radical left is trying to use the Epstein files right now as a way to further that great divide. And I think the weak ones are being exposed. And I think the ones that were never truly a part of us are going to be broken from us. And so, the Steve Bannons, the MTGs and the Tucker Katarsons, the Candy Owens, and that, I think they're all split. Now, I will tell you something that I'm hearing a lot of, and I'll give you my take on this as well. There's a lot of people that's not liking the fact that Trump is supporting Lindsey Graham and not supporting Marjorie Greene. Now, look, I'm not a Lindsey Graham fan whatsoever. However, I think Trump has more behind the scenes that he's doing. I think it's another case where he's allying with somebody who's not really fully an ally, but using you got to ally for the overarching purpose. I don't think he really is a big supporter of Lindsey Graham, but I think that he is willing to partner with Lindsey Graham when it's beneficial for him to partner up with Lindsey Graham. But I don't think it's going to be like eternal loyalty to Lindsey Graham, but I think he's partnering up for an overarching thing that he needs to accomplish and get done. Has nothing to do with Lindsey Graham. It has to do with his mission. It has to do with what he was elected to do. Now, there are some that are the American isolationists that actually they misunderstood Trump from the very beginning, and they're saying that he's not fulfilling what they asked for. I don't think that's the case. I think he's fulfilling exactly what he's always been. I think they had a misread on him. I don't think he was ever America isolationism. I think he's America first, and he's always been a friend to Israel. I mean, we've seen that in the first administration. Why would they think any different in the second administration? And so now I think the Lindsey Graham partnering up, I think that's just for the fact that we got to further the mission. I don't think it has anything to do with Lindsey Graham himself. I agree. Lindsey Graham is a milquetoast Republican. He's a rhino. He's pretty well what I call a Republican reprobate. But if he's going to help further the mission, those that are with us are not against us. So why tear him down if he's helping further the mission that Trump's trying to further? He's trying to work with them. So I'm okay with that. I think Trump is wise enough to get what he wants fulfilled. And if there's people that's going to help him fulfill that mission, he's going to work with them. When they stop that, then look, he's a man. He's going to fight against that, and he's going to keep furthering his mission. I don't think we need to get sidetracked with that. I don't think we need to get sidetracked with any of this. I think it's going to pan out. I think it's going to work out. I don't think there's anything that's going to take him down. Do I think Epstein was a creep? Yeah. Do I think he was a Mossad agent? I don't know. Honestly, I can't really tell you at this time. It's hard for me to weigh in on that when there's no solidifying evidence and there's a lot of anti-Semitism and people that use anything to try to take down Jewish people. So I don't try to rush out any of my opinion on any of that. I'm just giving you exactly what I see as I see it with the evidence that's laid before me. And so now when we talk about allying with somebody for the bigger purpose, I just talked to you about how yes, Joseph Stalin was an evil communist dictator. Hated Christianity, hated the Jews. Adolf Hitler same way. They did on the communist side and they did on the fascist side. However, FDR and Churchill did ally with Joseph Stalin to try to help take down fascism, take down Adolf Hitler, to take down the Nazis. And yes, that meant that we helped weaponize Russia to do that. However, it was the USSR that was encroaching upon Germany when Adolf Hitler was in his bunker and committed suicide. So we did defeat fascism with that ally partnership of Churchill, Stalin, and FDR. It did take down fascism. However, then we took down the communism. We outlived them. Anybody remember Reagan? Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall 92. I believe it was 92 when the Soviet fell. And so we won. We won on both sides. We beat fascism. We beat the communists too. However, you have to understand when you're in war, it's not clear-cut decisions. War is not just clear-cut, easy decisions. You got some very, very difficult decisions to make. And sometimes the enemy of your enemy has to be your friend for the cause of fighting against the greater evil. And when you take that down, then you fight the other evil. Now, I don't think Stalin was a lesser of evil. I just think at the time Hitler was taking over much of Europe. He was a great threat. And if he would have took over those areas, it was a threat to us in the West. So we partnered up with a strange partner. And then when we won, then we went and took them down as well. And so that's not your normal. As a matter of fact, we even see this in the founding of our nation. At the founding of our nation, when you had 11 colonies that really didn't want slavery anymore, and they were trying to disperse the slaves, get rid of their slavery, but you had South Carolina and Georgia that wanted slavery, and Benjamin Franklin saying, if we don't hang together, we most certainly hang separate. And so the 3/5 compromise wasn't something they necessarily wanted, but the 3/5 compromise took place so that they can join together, stay unified, and defeat Great Britain. Then after they did, they kept politically fighting it out, which culminated in the Civil War. And so we beat Great Britain. Then we won the war over slavery, and then we won the war over segregation. It wasn't that we wanted to partner up with that. It was the fact that sometimes you have to make very hard decisions so that you bring down the biggest threat first, and then you can take down the more smaller, minor threats. Now, sometimes they're equal threats, and you just got to make a calculated decision, and you're living through the fog of war. That's exactly what FDR was going through. FDR is most certainly not my favorite president. It's one of my least favorite presidents. I think he very, very much damaged many things in the United States of America, but I believe that he should get some due honor for helping win the war. Eventually, we know Truman would step in, but FDR did a good job in some of his war efforts. Churchill was an honorable statesman that helped take down fascism that deserves due honor. But now we have Tucker Carlson out there that is saying that is insinuating that Churchill was a great villain as well because we were arming Russia, and that's just evil. And it sounds noble. It sounds honorable. It sounds noble. It sounds all those things. But it's taking history by sound bites and it's rewriting history, which is exactly what we condemn the radical left for doing. The radical left tried to teach us that we are a racist, bigoted country built on slavery, built on white supremacy, and they take history by sound bites and they begin to make it sound noble that they're standing against evil, and they begin to rewrite our history so that we begin to deconstruct our nation. And now you have it happening from those that are on the conservative side of the aisle that are saying Churchill was the real villain, and now he had to come out and condemn Hitler. But before that, you had a historian, the Cooper guy, that really was insinuating like Churchill was the greater villain in World War II. And now you have people even trying to say that Hitler was just trying to save Germany from the evil Jews that was coming ahead. And so they're taking history by sound bites and they're rewriting history all over again and now making us the bad people in World War II. They're trying to say that the dropping of the atomic bombs, great, great, great evil. And so we need to condemn ourselves. And really, what it does is it pushes us into a pacifistic movement, which is really weird because in the 1960s, it was like the radical leftists that were this super pacifistic, hippie movement. And now it's rising up on the conservative right. Look, I'm totally against the war hawk thing. I get it. I get why people were tired of the Bush and Dick Cheney and Lindsey Graham's and all of that, the war hawkish nature. I get that. At the same time, I don't think that we should be that sapling that snaps so far the other direction that we become full-blown pacifistic people that says there's never a time to fight. I mean, the book of Ecclesiastes tells us there's a time for peace and there's a time for war. And so I think there's those that have always been slightly off on the conservative right. Now time is just exposing them. And I think that the radical left knows that this is happening. And so now they want to use the Epstein files to help further that fracture and divide. Now, one of the saddest, most disappointing, painful things I heard was over in the UK, as it was a World War II veteran that began to talk about how he feels like his fighting against Nazi Germany and all that was in vain because of where his country is right now. And it just tears your heart out to hear this. But then you have to examine, why is he saying that? Well, you look over there where he's at. It's because Islamists are infiltrating into the system without assimilation. And there's an Islamic rise inside of their nation as they're beginning to take over. In addition to that, freedom of speech is eroding away so that if you say something, even if it's a pun or a joke, if you make a joke with the LGBTQ2 plus community or whatever, not only do they try to say you're wrong, morally wrong for that, but then they come and they'll arrest you because of posts you made on Facebook. In addition to that, there's major anti-Semitism on the rise over there, as you've seen an attack on a synagogue over there as well. Well, they fought against Hitler and the fascists who were exterminating the Jews. So now what he sees is we fought for freedom. Freedom's being eroded away. We fought against those that were fascists. Now we're letting fascists come in our country. They're called Islamists. We fought against anti-Semitism. Now we're seeing it rise up again. And so now he's saying, what was the point of fighting World War II? All of our efforts for this. And now they're a step ahead of us, but we're seeing some of that in America today as we see Mom Donnie. And here's the biggest thing I have with Tucker right now is Tucker spent episode after episode talking about Israel and not talking about Mom Donnie. And it was like one time he talks about Mom Donnie and talks about him in a positive kind of light. He even talked about Maduro in a positive kind of light, as his people would beg to get out of there and come to America. Because Maduro doesn't like LGBTQ2 plus and that. Well, we don't either. I agree with that. But that doesn't, Vladimir Putin doesn't like it either. But that doesn't mean Vladimir Putin is automatically a good guy. Just because we agree with somebody on some things, there would have been things that would have been, there would have been certain values that evil dictators, we could have found something we agree with, but that doesn't make the evil dictator right because we found one thing we agree on. And so it's an ignorant argument to begin with. Somehow Maduro's right, and Maduro's not so bad after all. And that's really not what we need to worry about because we got all these problems in America right now too. Well, you look at Trump, he's trying to fight on all fronts. But because he's doing anything in foreign soil, so I guess what? Do we let all the Christians in Nigeria just get slaughtered by Islamists and not do anything about it when we have the power and ability to help them? If you believe those are your Christian brothers and sisters over there, shouldn't you have an obligation to try to help them? But because it's in foreign territory, I guess we shouldn't do that. And so they spent all this time talking about Israel genocide, committing a genocide because they're fighting a war while people are being slaughtered in Nigeria by Islamists, never being called out by while Mamdani, an Islamist Marxist, comes in and now he's the mayor of New York City and that's not being talked about. That's the problem I have. It's not just because he brought somebody on his program and he wants to ask questions or have a dialogue, which by the way, then when the young man says that he's an admirer of Joseph Stalin and he could have totally been trolling, who knows? There was no pushback on that. But then when you have Senator Ted Cruz on, you keep pushing on him because of your anti-Israel ideology, but yet you're not pushing back on these other ones and you're giving them platform and you're sanitizing their ideas and you're letting them say the things what it seems like you want to say, but you won't say. So when you get attacked or you get questioned, you can say, well, I never said it. And so now Tucker is saying because we helped aid Russia taking down fascism, then that was evil itself. That's the new rewriting of history, not understanding. Sometimes we partner up with people not because we want to, but because we got to take down another evil that's more of a threat at the very moment. And then when we take them down, that doesn't mean that we just side and we're friends with the other people. We might have to fight them too. And so that's the odd, strange thing. That's the oddity of war. That's not you're normal. It's been like that from the very beginnings of time. And so the whole idea of taking this history by sound bites to demonize, it really is the demonization of America and it's anti-Israel. That's all this is. That's all it is. And it's this constant labeling the Jewish people. And they'll say, well, we're not talking about all Jewish people. I have Jewish friends. Well, you're talking about the nation of Israel. And it's as if the Hamas wants a two-state solution. They don't want a two-state solution. They want from the river to the sea. Israel is not fighting just for, they don't want them to have a two-state solution. Israel's fighting so they're not eradicated. And they'll say, well, Israel has more power. Yeah, well, you're lucky they don't just wipe them out if they have all that power, right? So obviously, if they have all that power and they're not just grinding them to powder, either A, they want to and we're holding them back, which means Trump is not Bibi's puppet. So which one is it? Or B, they're actually constraining themselves when they do have the power. So maybe they're not as evil as what you claim they are. Which one is it? And that's all this is all about. Now you see the radical left is partnering up with those that have the same end goal. They're anti-Israel and they don't have a problem rewriting America's history. And so I think we need to just know who's on our side and who's not. But I don't think this is here normal. And I don't think it's anything to fret about. I think we just need to coast it out and watch. We went through 4 years of CNN trying to take down Trump and divide the base. And it did divide the base. And there was a lot of internal fighting. But, you know, we carried on and the mission kept going further. So I think we just ride it out, see what happens. Pray for the president, pray for our nation. And look, if something came out and he was truly guilty, we'll be the first ones to say it. And we'll say we got it wrong. But I do not expect it at all. I expect this to be just another smoking gun that means nothing in the end. So I think we're going to be all right. Let's just be alert and know we can't give up on the mission. No reason to divide the base now. Well, America, that's about all the time we have for tonight. I love you. I'm praying for America. I love this nation. We know the church will be standing tomorrow, for Jesus said, upon this rock, the gates of hell shall not prevail against the church. But if the republic has not totally been burned down by tomorrow, I'll see you then. God bless you, America. Have a great night.